ShodCast, your host Sean Klein, alongside me Mike Height and Matt McKenney. Boys, how's the off-season treating you?
Couldn't be better, Sean.
Things are great.
Good to hear. Before we head in, we did leave off on last season with a Pokemon. Let's see if you guys can get it.
Who's that Pokemon?
Here were your hints. The 2015 Jaguars tight end. He averaged 8.2 points per game that year, and he helped Rafi Bombs beat you down with ODB in the championship. Any guesses?
Well, we already saw the answer, Sean, so why don't we go ahead and just reveal it to our viewers here.
So who is it? Who is it, Mike?
Julius
Matt?
Thomas.
Julius Thomas. That's who it is. We'll have another one for you at the end of the show. Boys, it's been
Can we
a
see the
heck
answer
of an
for that one
off-season.
too?
What's that?
So can we see the answer for that one too?
The one at the end? No, you gotta wait until next week or next show at least. But we had a lot of things happen in the off season. Let's take a look at the NFC East first. The only thing that I can really talk about when it comes to the NFC East is Washington slightly changing their logo. But Matt, tell me a little bit more about what's going on in the NFC East. What's really changed?
Well, tons of stuff. Dallas starting the upper left-hand corner here. Dallas has committed to CD Lamb as their number one receiver. They basically see that Amari Cooper was expendable. He was too expensive. So it's going to be, Lamb and also Gallup going forward for them. I think that from a fantasy perspective, that's going to be impactful, because there's going to be less targets to have to funnel towards Cooper and more to go around for the other receivers. With the Eagles, obviously AJ Brown is a huge addition to that team. It just totally transforms their offense. He's one of the best receivers in the league. And, if you're trying to figure out if Jalen Hurts is the guy, that's the way to do it, right? He's a premier target. The Giants are still kind of in a perpetual state of, I guess,
Who knows?
Yeah.
They got a new coach.
Good.
New coach and Mike. Mike, you know quite a bit about the coach. Bills fan here, coming from the Bills. You think he's going to change that team around?
It can't be any worse than it was. I think not that Daniel Jones is some generational talent, but I do think he's been mismanaged during his time there. He's an athletic freak. Sometimes he trips when he's got nothing between him and the end zone after a 60-yard run. But, I expect them to be markedly better than they were last season.
So
I think a lot of it depends on the health of Saquon Barkley too. If he's such a good player, if he can play most of the season, that can really transform your offense as well.
Yeah, and healthy wide receivers too.
Who's the best team in this division, and then who's the worst? Matt?
Eagles are the best. Giants are the worst.
And Mike?
Cowboys are the best. The Washington Warriors are the worst.
Are they the Warriors?
Commanders.
Close enough.
Well, that's your NFC East. Those are the major changes there.
That's a better name.
The Warriors.
It should have been Warriors.
I don't hate it.
I'm always a big fan of alliteration. I don't even know where I got Warriors from, but it's the opposite side of the country. But who knows?
Heading to possibly one of the most competitive divisions in football right now, the AFC West. I'm going to start this one off with the same question. Matt, who's the best team and who's the worst team?
That's a tough question to answer. They're all so good. I think this division's going to beat each other up quite a bit. If I'm picking a division winner right now, I'm taking the Chargers. I think that they're kind of growing into their own. I think Herbert's really becoming a very, very good quarterback. Their defense is really good, arguably the best in the division. I think the Chiefs take a step back this year. I I just don't think they're going to get it done with the division this year. So I would say LA. And I think if we're picking a worse team in the division, honestly, I'm not sold on the Broncos. And everybody's in on them and they love them and stuff. I don't know. I don't buy it.
Mike, they're getting Russell Wilson. Are you buying in on the hype?
I mean, he's obviously an improvement over what they had before, but you know, that you need more than just a quarterback. And so I tend to agree. I mean, I think people have been all over the Broncos this season. I don't see it. I mean, out of that division, they're going to be beating up on each other for 8 games a season, or 6 games a season. But you know, I think it's going to be a battle between the Raiders and the Broncos this season. I think Carr kind of takes a step back from what he was last season, and I think it's going to be between the Chiefs and the Chargers for top. I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think losing Hill is going to be huge for the Chiefs. I just think that Herbert's just going to continue to get better and better. So I'm with Matt. I'm picking the Chargers as the best, and I'll go with the Raiders as the worst.
And with the major off-season moves here, let's talk a little bit about the impact that the Chiefs are going to have losing Tyreek Hill, and then the impact that other teams, we already touched on Russell Wilson a little bit in Denver, but in San Diego, or not San Diego anymore, Los Angeles, they also got Khalil Mack. So that's going to be a huge addition for their already pretty tough defense.
Yeah, and the guy we haven't even mentioned yet, Devontae Adams, is going to the Raiders. So, I mean, their offense is going to be quite a bit better just from that addition. You know, those guys, he and Carr played together in college, and so there's already some chemistry there. I just think this division has, as a whole, gotten just so much better, and I think it's going to be tough to win. It's going to be tough to win this division, really tough.
I mean, I think the Chiefs have done the worst in free agency, bringing in Juju and MVS. Like MVS is a speed guy, but he's not even the talent of what Hill is, and Juju is what Juju is. I mean, he's a possession guy that I think people had a much bigger expectation for him after his first season in Pittsburgh. And, you know, once Antonio left, he really just was not able to fill that gap. And I just feel like his career's really never rebounded after that letdown first season or second season in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, like, if you look at these 4 teams, you could make the argument that Kansas City is the only one that did not improve this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other 3 got, I think, pretty much nobody would argue. They all got better. They all got better, except the Chiefs probably got worse.
I agree.
But they could still be the best team in this division. That's it for the AFC West. Heading into the AFC North, another kind of muddy division where we don't really know what could possibly happen here. No team really stands out to me as the best team in this division. Would you agree, Matt?
This is a good one. This is probably my favorite one to talk about, I think, out of all the divisions in football right now, because realistically every team has a shot to win. My division winner here is Baltimore. I think they are going to bounce back in a big way. They had a lot of injury problems last year. They're going to get a 4th place schedule this year. Lamar's going to be healthy. You know, I think they're going to have a full stable of running backs they can use to kind of run their scheme. And I think my last place team, I think, is going to be. I think Pittsburgh's defense is good, but their quarterback situation is just so dicey. I think they probably finished last year.
I want to see Money Mitch actually do well. I would love to see that. I've always liked Mitch Trubisky, but yeah, it's kind of tough to see a road for the Steelers to be successful when you have so many high-powered teams in the division.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, what do you think?
I'm with Matt. You know, I think Lamar coming back healthy I think it's gonna make a big deal for the Ravens, obviously, but I do think losing Hollywood is going to be a big loss. I mean, Lamar just loved Hollywood, especially last season. He was literally just hucking the ball up in the air and letting Hollywood go after it. So I think I think a lot of that responsibility is going to fall on Andrews and some what some of their younger receivers can pick up slack. But I have no real expectations for the Steelers this year. Yes, they have a good defense, but you can't win without a good quarterback, and there's not one on that roster.
And speaking of good quarterbacks, though, there are plenty in this division. You have
Joe
Burrow, who's a friend of the show. And
okay.
Deshaun Kaiser, who.
How about Deshaun Watson?
Deshaun Kaiser.
Deshaun Kaiser was there. He was there.
He sure was. Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
He absolutely was there.
I'm not convinced that Watson plays a full season this year. I think there's still suspension looming, and I mean, I don't know that. I mean, they're a running team. They want to be a running team, so they spend all this money on them, and they have 2 elite running backs. So I don't know. I don't see them really making a huge split. I think that they're going to be in 3rd place, in my opinion. I think it's going to go, Baltimore and the Bengals battling for 1st place, and then these 2 bringing up the rear.
Well, they added Amari Cooper, who we just talked about a minute ago.
Washed.
So
absolutely.
I think they are trying to at least improve the passing game a little bit. Obviously a big step up with Watson over Baker, in terms of ability, in terms of being able to be, an efficient quarterback. There's still some question marks, I think, with the receiving core to be sure. But I do think they're actually making some strides that way. Their defense is still good. I mean, they still have, one of the best defenders in the league in Myles Garrett. He's an absolute game wrecker. I think the Bengals missed the playoffs. I'll say it. I've thought that for a while now. I still feel that way. I think the Bengals are out. I don't think they make it this year.
We can put our first bet of the season on the board here if you want.
Sure. Yeah, I'll bet the Bengals miss the playoffs.
What odds are you giving me here, or is it just straight up?
I mean, you were the one that proposed it. Let's go straight up. I mean, I think probably the Bengals to miss the playoffs is plus money. So if I'm giving you even, it's probably a pretty good bet to take.
Okay, that's fair.
So my dog went through the back of my computer and somehow unplugged my camera. I'm trying to get it back started, but yeah, if you're missing my video, that's why.
That's all right. That's why this is an off-season video.
That's the AFC North heading into the NFC.
Wait, hold on. We didn't put stakes on this yet.
Oh, you're still working on your stakes.
Let's. Well, what do you want to do? How about a brand new box of golf balls, personalized?
Sold.
Okay.
Heading to the NFC North, you have Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago, and Detroit. Who's the worst? Who's the best? And who made the biggest moves? Matt.
So I still think it's hard to argue that Green Bay is the best team in this division, and that says less about Green Bay than it does about the other 3 teams in this division, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really they're in a very weak division, probably the weakest division in the NFC. I do think the Lions make a big step this year, so I wouldn't pick them to finish last. I think it's the Bears, honestly. They just don't have any offensive weapons, really. They have Fields and Montgomery, but their receivers are, basically non-existent. Their defense took a big hit with Mack leaving. So I'm going Packers as the best, Bears as the worst.
What were the major changes in this division, Matt?
Well, again, Adams departing from Green Bay is pretty big. They were able to add a couple of young receivers in the draft. Christian Watson, I think is his name, and then Romeo Dubes. So, I mean, there's big shoes to fill in Green Bay at the receiver position. So those are big changes. Minnesota, I think, is going to be largely similar to what they were last year. in terms of, their offensive personnel from a fantasy perspective. Obviously, Jamison Williams shows up in Detroit as a rookie. That he should be a dynamic playmaker that, they can utilize and hopefully, improve their offense with that. I know they're very high on their offensive line there. I was actually listening to a podcast. I kind of came across it by accident. There was some like YouTuber talking about the Lions and talking about how good their offensive line is going to be this year. So, I mean, that's their expectation. And then, the Bears, fantasy-wise, they just don't have any receivers to rely on. They lost Allen Robinson, who had a down year last year, and the receivers are arguably even worse this year than they were last year. I think, Byron Pringle is probably the number one guy. So I don't see a lot of potency out of Chicago with their offense.
Mike, is this the worst division in football?
Ooh. I mean, I would say it's between this and the NFC South.
Well,
AFC
NFC South in a little
AFC South.
The what?
We'll get to both
NFC.
South divisions in a moment, but I think this is
NFC South. I think they're like the NFC South, that there's one good team that kind of buoys the other three.
You think the same is going to happen again this year, where Green Bay is the clear-cut winner?
No, I actually think the Vikings are going to win the division this year. I don't have much expectations for the Packers offense without Adams. I mean, he's responsible for so many touchdowns. I don't know. It's going to be almost all rushing touchdowns this season. And I just think another year of Jefferson. I mean, Cousins is who he is. I do think that, Jefferson's third season in the league, I think he's just going to continue to take more and more steps. And so I think the Vikings are going to win the division. I do think that the Lions will be significantly better than they have been. As mentioned, they spent a lot of draft capital on both lines, and I think that's going to come to fruition this year. But I still think they're going to finish behind the Bears.
Well, it's a tough division if you're a mediocre team, like I think all four of these teams could potentially be. I don't know if any of them are really going to run away and be contenders, but that's why we play the games, right? Mm-hmm. Taking a look at a previously mentioned NFC South, also in the discussion for potentially worst division in football. Mike, why don't you start this one off? I think it's pretty clear cut that you're going to say Tampa's the best team in this division, right?
Without a doubt. The other three teams are absolute garbage. I mean, Mariota.
Comments on that.
Mariota's going to be the starter for the Falcons at this point in time. I don't really know how that. I'm not expecting good things out of that. Jameis, another year with or without Thomas, who knows? McCaffrey's coming off of like his fifth straight year, ended by some sort of leg injury. I mean, this division beyond the Bucs is a train wreck, and I don't know. I just have no expectations for any of these teams other than the Bucs.
Matt, is there any hope for Marcus Mariota fans, Jameis Winston fans, or Sam Darnold fans out there?
For what? Finishing the division? Like winning 5 games?
Yeah. to make the playoffs.
I don't think that any of the teams aside from the Bucs make the playoffs. I guess I could see in some scenario where maybe the Saints make it. Obviously, if they can, they've had some success against the Buccaneers recently. I mean, if they split with the Buccaneers and win their other two, both games against the other two divisional opponents, maybe we see them squeak into the playoffs and wild card spot. But yeah, I mean, the Falcons and the Panthers are two of the worst teams in the league, let alone this division. So,
and one other thing that I think should be mentioned here is New Orleans, for the first time in a very long time, will be without Sean Payton.
Mm-hmm.
And so a new coaching staff in place in New Orleans should make things at least interesting down in the Bayou.
Sure.
So who knows what any of these teams can do, but it does appear the Bucks are the clear winner there. AFC South. Let's talk about your Colts, Matt. Lots of changes for the team this year.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one being at quarterback, and Matt Ryan is stepping in. They were able to get pretty good return for Carson Wentz in the trade with the Warriors.
They shall henceforth be known as the Warriors.
The Warriors.
On
Yeah,
the
so
spot.
I mean, and then they were able to, they got Matt Ryan for a good price. I mean, they got him for a 3rd round pick, which I think was kind of more of a charity trade, for the Falcons. They wanted to make sure they did right by Matt Ryan. They knew they weren't going to be, looking at him as a long-term fixture, with their plans, and so they shipped him to the Colts. They still have some questions at receiver. They did draft a wide receiver out of Cincinnati, Alec Pierce, who is a big, strong, fast guy. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think they're the division favorite right now. But I mean, the Titans are still there. I do think the Titans are a worse team this year than they were last year. Losing AJ Brown is a huge loss. It's a huge loss. I don't think that can be understated. Like, he is one of the best weapons in the NFL. I'm going to take him out of this division, and I think the Colts are pretty firmly the number one in this division. And I see Jacksonville making some strides this year. I think I would not be shocked if Jacksonville finishes 2nd this year. Would not be shocked at all. I realize that's crazy to say because they had the 1st overall pick this year, but their defense is good. I mean, they had some good games last year. They got some good players. It's another year of Lawrence. They've got some weapons that they brought in on offense. Travis Etienne is going to be back this year off an injury. So who's to say that the Jaguars don't take a step and finish 2nd in this division? I would not be shocked at all.
Mike, do you have the same sentiments? Is Trevor Lawrence going to make a big step this year, in your opinion?
I don't know if I'm willing to go that far, but I agree with Matt on the sentiment that they might, be 2nd in the division. But it's not because of what they did right. It's more the fact that they play in the AFC South.
They play Houston twice.
They do play Houston twice, and most likely Davis Mills playing quarterback. Tannehill's really not going to have any weapons. I'm concerned about, Henry this season. Off of the number of carries he's gotten over the last 2 years. He's coming off of the Liz Frank, right, Matt?
I don't know what the injury was. I know it was a foot injury, but I'm not sure if it was Liz Frank or not.
It's just he's just taking too much damage, too many carries over the last couple of years. So, I think the Colts win it going away. I could see the Jags finishing 2nd, but I don't think they're going to sniff the playoffs, even if that's the case.
So in the AFC South, the Shad believes the Colts will win the division and the Texans will be the losers there. Heading to the NFC West, another very competitive division. You have the 49ers, the Cardinals, the Rams, and then you have the Seahawks, which are kind of a huge question mark, don't you think, Mike?
Oh, yeah, without doubt. I mean, they just lost their best player. Russ obviously went to the Broncos. I don't know. I mean, the Cardinals have so much talent, but it just seems like they're just a really poorly run team. I don't know if Kingsbury is really or Kingsbury is like a bad locker room coach or something, but it just seems like none of them seem to get along. Like Kyler seems like he hates everybody on the team. At one point,
deleted over the offseason about Kyler not being happy.
He deleted like everything Cardinals off of his social media. And then they just brought in Hollywood. So I don't know. And Hopkins is suspended for the first 5 games or whatever the season for PEDs. So I have moderate expectations for this. I mean, they have all the talent in the world. They should be much better than they are. San Francisco, it's Jimmy G or Trey Lance going to be their quarterback for one? I guess that's the question, to be honest. So I don't really have much expectations for the 49ers either. I mean, they're a gritty team. Like when it's like a playoff level game, I think they really show up and Shanahan's a great coach and finds a way to win, but over a 17 game season, you can't really get those gritty wins. And, I don't know if the 49ers are going to even be in the playoffs this year. And then LA, obviously coming off the Super Bowl, it doesn't look like one of the worst moves ever, because after mortgaging their entire future over the last 5 years, because they did get that Super Bowl ring. But I don't know. Stafford will be fine. They brought in Robinson this year. They're going to have like 3 different guys in the backfield that, I think all feel like they deserve the majority of the carries.
Matt, do you see a chance for LA to make a second appearance at the Super Bowl? And then Mike, I want your answer after Matt's.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the NFC is weak.
Mm-hmm.
They're one of the best divisions. They're one of the best teams in the conference. They've been there. They've got it done. They still have some of the best players in the league. Aaron Donald is still an absolute terrorist on the field. And, you saw what Matt Stafford did with a good team around him. Cooper Kupp is elite. So, they're still right in that conversation, I think, for sure.
Mike?
No, I agree with Matt. The NFC is significantly worse than the AFC. So, and I do think that the loss of Wilson helps this team. I mean, that's 2 games a year that they really don't have to stress over as much as they did, the last however many years.
I want to talk really quickly about San Fran, because I think this is a dark horse team. I know they went to the NFC Championship last year, and so I shouldn't be saying that, but with the NFC as weak as it is, and I think Shanahan can run a very, very good offense. They obviously are very, when it comes to scheming and it comes to drawing up plays and running a good offense, there's probably not many better teams than this one. So even if you've got Trey Lance, and I guess what I mean to say is, even if you have a quarterback that is limited, which I'm not saying Trey Lance is limited. I think he can offer a lot to this offense and probably create a whole bunch of new dynamics here. He may elevate this offense dramatically, but what I mean to say is, even with weak quarterback play, you can still have excellent results. You can still really, really be successful when you have an offense that's run by a mastermind like Shanahan. So I would not be shocked at all if San Fran is the division champion here. I like what Mike had to say about the Cardinals. I think that there are some problems within that organization that maybe are not as clear to outsiders as they could be. I think this is a team that very talented, as Mike said, but there's just something that's off. There's something that's not quite right.
One last division to go over, and this division features the one team that is a Super Bowl favorite right now, Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, the Bills are, probably the surest pick to win their division out of anybody in football. It's hard to make that argument. I think that the other 3 teams in this division are flawed in a lot of ways. I think we saw the very best out of the Patriots last year. I don't think we're going to get that again this year. I think there's going to be some problems there this year. And in fact, I think the Dolphins could very easily unseat them for second in the division and even become a playoff team potentially in the AFC. I think the Jets probably do take a small step forward. I don't think that they're going to be anywhere near the caliber of the Bills. So Buffalo, I think, they're going to be a favorite to win this conference and potentially Super Bowl as well, as long as they stay healthy. I don't think there's any dispute about that.
Mike, where do you see the Jets going? Because this is a team that made a lot of off-season splashes. But the question is, can they turn it into action?
I mean, in my opinion, no. I still think they're their worst team in the division. I agree with Matt. I think the Dolphins will probably move up into the second spot, and then it'll be the Patriots and the Jets. I don't know. This division just lacks a lot of offense, which kind of like sucks that there's so many games a year within the division, and it's really just the Bills playing against mediocre to below average offenses. I would love to see a lot more shootouts, and it's just unfortunate we don't get more.
Now, normally I just let you guys talk about this stuff, but I do want to interject here because I've been saying for several months that the Patriots are fraudulent. I think I started that back week 6. The Patriots are frauds, and here we are heading into the 2022 season, and it seems to be obvious to me in particular, and it seems like a lot more people are starting to see what I see, and the team's fraudulent. Can they by any chance make it back to the playoffs again? Do you see a route for them to make it back to the playoffs, Mike?
I mean, I never put anything like that above Bill Belichick. I think the guy has proven it time and time again that, even with less than stellar talent, he is able to find a way to make things happen. He was the beneficiary of, one of the worst weather games we've ever watched in the history of football last year. With that Monday night game against the Bills, or was that Thursday night? Whatever night of the week it was. I was there, and it was the worst football game I've ever watched in person in my life. But he's a defensive genius, and he uses his knowledge of the defensive game to come up with offensive game plans. And I never doubt him to figure something out. Like I was talking about with Shanahan earlier, he's just one of those guys that, if you need to win a game, I mean, if you had to pick one coach to make that happen, I don't know who else you would pick over Bill Belichick.
And to wrap up this division, Matt, would you be shocked to see another team other than the Bills win this division?
Yes.
And why?
How much time do you have?
I have a question for Matt.
Go ahead.
Where are you at personally with the Bills and Pagula?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, we know that you have a history with that family and have removed your allegiance away from the Buffalo Bills. Where are you at currently?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would not consider myself to be a Bills fan. I like to see the Bills do well for Bills fans because I think that I love Buffalo, and I think Buffalo deserves to have winning teams because of the fans. But I mean, I'm a fan of my dad first. That's gonna always be the number one thing for me. So it doesn't matter where he is, I'm gonna root for him.
I think that's fair.
So that's the AFC East, and I believe that's the end of our divisions. We're going to head into talking points now, because we do have a couple to get through over the off season, and the first one is the show 20th. That's coming up late August. Matt, you got a lot of great things brewing for this. Why don't you just give us a little bit of preview of what we can expect on that late August weekend?
Yeah. Well, sure. So again, I mean, we're planning on having it be a couple of days to celebrate the 20th anniversary for the show. I'm not going to give too many details right now at this point because there's still a lot in the works. We're trying to kind of organize a lot of this stuff, myself and Vince and Fume, and we're trying to make this as fun as we possibly can. But what I can tell you is that it'll be both Friday and Saturday, full days of activities, and then kind of heading home on Sunday. Saturday will be the draft. I'm hoping to, maybe start a little bit earlier on Saturday for the draft itself so we can finish earlier and then kind of enjoy ourselves in the evening. But yeah, lots of stuff in the works right now. So it's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Mike, you've been with the show for what, about 7 years now? 5 to 7?
I would have guessed 17, maybe.
This is 7.
Yeah, this will be year 7. So you've been with us for almost half of the years that we've had the show. Just curious, from since you're the last person to actually join, what is your overall view of the show, and what are you expecting for the 20th? What are you looking forward to?
I mean, I love being a part of this league. I maybe did when I first joined kind of feel like an outsider just because there was years and years of inside jokes and things that I didn't understand at the time.
Get them now.
Huh? Oh, I get them now.
Yeah, get them now.
Sure do. But I had some early success in the league, and I do think that the switch to 2 QB really has cost me. I have not adjusted my draft strategy, so that's something that I'm going to take into account going forward. But I can't wait for the show 20th anniversary. I don't have a wife and kids like most of the guys in this league, so it's not going to be like my weekend away. It's just going to be another weekend for me. But I love any weekend away at the beach or at the lake. Hopefully we get some golf involved there. And I mean, at this point, it's really just Simpson that is in danger of missing, right?
I think Neil is highly questionable as well.
Oh, Neil is highly questionable. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we have a few questionable people, but it sounds like we're going to get at least 12. I want to say.
Okay.
So that should be good, and I'm looking forward to getting you out on the lake, Mike. Get you in a boat.
Yeah. I already purchased some FPF 70, so I'm ready to go.
I think you might need more than that. And then
to
wrap up the show here,
calling dibs on a shade spot wherever that may be at Fume's cabin.
To wrap up the show here, we got Memorial Day weekend coming up. Any big plans, Matt? Let's start with you.
Well, we always do the same thing every Memorial Day. My wife's family has a chicken barbecue. They got kind of their own spin on chivettas that they use, and I'm usually in charge of, or one of the people in charge of cooking the chickens up. So usually that's a good, majority of the day on the Sunday of Memorial Day. So that'll be kind of a fun activity to do. Neil's in town this weekend too, so he's going to be busy on Sunday, but I'll see him on Saturday. So should be a fun weekend, I think.
Mike, what you got going on?
I am heading down to Steve's neck of the woods tomorrow afternoon.
Going down to the big city.
The Big Apple. We went down last year for Memorial Day, and the weather was absolute garbage. I don't think it stopped raining for 72 hours straight, and it was in the 50s the entire time. This weekend it's supposed to be in the 80s and sunny, so they'll be enjoying the city much more possible. There's a planned pizza tour on Saturday afternoon. Hoping to play Bethpage Black Saturday morning. Sunday we're going to a delicious Mediterranean restaurant, and then we'll head back home to Rochester on Monday morning.
Big weekend plans for the ShodCast.
What do you got going on? What are you doing?
I will be hanging out at home with my sister. She'll be coming in town for the weekend, until Monday. So I plan on doing maybe a hike up in the hills somewhere, and then getting Red Lobster. That's
Oh,
my go-to. I love Red
yeah.
Lobster.
Cheddar Bay biscuits.
Oh my goodness, everything about Red Lobster. I go straight for the ultimate feast, and then I change out all the shrimp for the coconut shrimp that you dip in
Oh.
the pina colada sauce.
Wow. What is the ultimate feast comprised of? What exactly do you get when you order the ultimate feast?
The ultimate feast, I believe, is
Well, you don't even know. You said you're gonna
well,
order this
well,
show.
let me finish here.
Do I need to pull out my phone and look this up and just
It's
find out?
lobster tail, crab legs, and then two
Oh.
different kinds of shrimp. But what I do is I always request, hey, can you take off those two shrimp and just replace them with coconut shrimp, because the coconut shrimp's fantastic.
Wow.
That's what
Is
I
it
go with.
just two coconut shrimp that they
Oh, it's a whole bunch. They give you
Oh,
a
okay.
bunch of coconut shrimp. It's very, very good.
Nice. Do you have to order the biscuits separately, or they just come to the
But
table?
they come with the meal.
They come-
They're free.
Yeah. Nice.
The
That would
free
not be tops on my list.
Who's that Pokemon?
Wait, Sean, you gotta introduce the newest member of the family.
We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Before we wrap up the show, we do have a Pokemon. Here are your hints. 2015 AFC East wide receiver, and he racked up 212 points in the show, so about an average for wide receiver. And he teamed up with Freddie Jackson on Show Me Dem TDs. It's a tough one. We'll find out on the next ShodCast. That should be coming up. I don't know. Maybe we'll do another one before the season. I'm sure we'll do a preseason shod.
Yeah, there definitely is going to be a pre-20th anniversary ShodCasts, preseason ShodCast for sure. Kind of rolling out some of the final details about the show 20th. There'll be a good segment on that, I think. So, absolutely.
And then this is the newest member of the family. His name's Woodstock. Woody the Beagle. And he will be making some predictions this year. Snoop will also have most of the predictions, but
I thought
Woody has already made some
retired after
predictions
last season.
on a few games.
So you should do like what was Snoop's picks called again?
Snoop Sleepers.
Snoop Sleepers, and then you could do Woodstock's
Woody's would be
winners.
Woody's would be winners.
Woody's weekly winners. Nice.
Yeah, we got a lot of
You may as well just do both dogs and pick two picks.
Yeah, we got a lot of them. So Snoop, he unfortunately about 2 months ago got a bad diagnosis. He's had a tumor growing on his arm for quite a while, and then it was discovered that it was cancerous. But currently it's still benign. We were just worried about it because it broke open, and we weren't sure it was going to heal, because cancer doesn't heal the same way as regular tissue. So I got a little scared and wanted a puppy, and so in comes Woody. But the good news is Snoop is fine at the current state. There's just always the possibility that breaks open again. So,
except that he's super annoyed that Woodstock just keeps nagging on him.
Oh yeah, Woodstock is the definition of a terrorist. He sees Snoop, he just locks eyes on Snoop, and it's over. It's over for Snoop. He's getting his beard chewed off. He's just anything that can become a chew toy for the beagle becomes one.
No,
including limbs, tails, arms, noses, everything.
That's what
Just
they're
a chew
for.
toy
Sibling rivalry.
Well, that's all we got for the ShodCast today. Keep it here for more episodes later on in the summer. Take it easy.